Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. Ms. Musk, I want to come back to something that you said that Senator Klobuchar at the beginning of the hearing. You talked about the Big Five being on sort of a downward slope in their acquisitions, and it talked about the next generation of dominant platforms. You were thinking about this, and with particular reference to the cloud infrastructure. I'm really curious about that. Could you just give us a sense of who as you look to the future and you think about the next wave here of potential monopolists and the next wave of dominant platforms, who are you thinking about? What are you looking at? What are you seeing?
Thank you, Senator. That's a fantastic question and very much dovetails with the work that I referenced earlier. We at AAI are very interested in the digital business ecosystem sort of as a business model or phenomenon. And what we find is they're very unique. And typically, a digital business ecosystem is built around a platform, whether it's search or e-commerce or advertising, you name it. To support those platforms and the users that engage with them, you need a lot of cloud infrastructure. So you need machine learning technologies, cloud computing, artificial intelligence plays a really important role, data analytics. We find that when those two pieces are in place, digital ecosystems can really expand infinitum. They can add in apps to their ecosystems, whether that's in fintech or health tech or energy tech or ed tech, again, you name it. But these ecosystems have really significant capacities for growth and expansion. And what we've seen with the top five is they have grown monumentally over the last 25 years. 700 transactions, 200 reportable under the HSR requirements, only one challenged Google ITA by the Department of Justice. We are very worried about the activity that we see from an antitrust standpoint, obviously. New players who are quietly engaging in massive levels of acquisitions. These are folks that really fly under the radar screen, who have that cloud technology and capability. They have their platforms in place, and they really are poised to expand dramatically in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years. Whereas the Big Five have really slowed down significantly on acquisitions. But we have this new generation coming up of highly acquisitive companies with tremendous cloud capability. And those are the ones I think that are very much worth watching as we move into the future. I'm not saying the Big Five aren't worth watching, they are, but it's this new generation, I think, that we need to be very keen on monitoring.
Give us a sense of who is in that category.
I would love to do that. There are public and private companies. I wish I had my list, my spreadsheet, but we have companies in there like Salesforce, which has been incredibly acquisitive over the last many years. Companies like Intuit, with an incredible impact in the fintech space. Zillow is building out an incredible platform ecosystem. And these companies don't have enormous market caps, as you might know, but they certainly have the capability to grow, I think, into large market cap companies and have all the same features as the big digital business ecosystems. Just one more quick comment. We worry about these companies because they are really rife with what we call market failures in economics. There are data externalities, there are network effects, there are information asymmetries around the use of data. And so when you have ecosystems or models like that where there are lots of market failures, you're kind of looking at a similar situation to your traditional natural monopoly electric utility. That does require government oversight to make sure that consumers are not ripped off.
Very good. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. Mr. Michikowski, if I could just come to you. I wanted to ask you about further action that you think from a policy perspective that this body might take. You've mentioned about opening up the App Store. I've sponsored legislation that would mandate data portability and interoperability. Is that something worth pursuing? Are there other steps that we should be thinking about policy-wise in terms of changes to the law that would actually promote competition and innovation and allow companies like yours to have a chance at succeeding as opposed to being shut out by the dominant players?
Thanks very much for your question, Senator. The Access Act, which I think you co-sponsored in the previous Congress, is I think a very important piece of legislation that would support companies like Beeper that are aiming to interoperate with some of the largest tech platforms. I think one of the things that Access does is it enables users to have the freedom to switch away from certain platforms if they no longer continue to agree with those platforms. Right now, most users are locked in because their friends or their current social graph is contained within some of these free apps. If access were to come to pass, I think that you would see a tremendous innovation in terms of new companies that would compete with some of these entrenched large tech companies. Because no longer would switching mean giving up on the existing relationships that you have with your friends, with your family. You would still be able to maintain those while potentially supporting a different competitor in the space.
Very good. That's very helpful. Thank you. My time has expired, so I will leave it at that. I just want to say, Madam Chair, that I happened to see Mr. Michikowski earlier today, and I think this is your first time testifying, right? And I told him this committee is so friendly that he had nothing to fear. So there you are.
Except for certain people. But yes, it is very, very friendly, very friendly. Okay, so next up, Senator Black.